Hey Tinkers, today we're going to be changing out the Airsoft unit in one of our Taigen tanks. Now this tank is not broken. This video was requested by one of my users, so once again it's going to be hard for me to actually diagnose the motor, but I will show how to diagnose that motor. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect in here. Now you'll see this tank is, once again, it's one of my used tanks. So it'll probably be a little dirty here, guys. Forgive me for that. Now, as shown in my previous video, find yourself a nice cushiony bubble wrap or some kind of cloth to make it nice and easy to work with here. So the first thing that we're going to do is actually remove some screws. Actually, the first thing I need to do is some wiring cleanup here. This guy's been used for well over 2 years now, so forgive me, guys, here. We're going to remove this screw, and this screw from the Tiger 1. Okay, and what this will do is it will release this turret rotation ring right here from the turret itself on the inside. And what happens is this little turret rotation mechanism spins this gear, and that's what makes your turret go clockwise or counterclockwise. So let's go ahead and remove these 3 screws here. That's 1. And that's 2. And 3. Now, let's go ahead and remove this out of the way. Unplug anything you need. Please take pictures if you're going to unplug anything at all so that you know your wire orientation. And if your wires look like this, guys, clean it up. Don't do what I do. This one's actually due to be cleaned up. This is one of the reasons why I have it in here today. Alright. Now, we have the turrets, and we also have the Airsoft unit right there. And when you get the package, the TAG 120614 is what this guy is going to be here. Now, this one has a few simple plugs here. It does have a 3-wire plug coming down right here, and this will go to your upper hole if needed. I will get to that in just a second here. You will also have this 2-wire plug right here. This is for your recoil and your sound triggering. And of course these wires will be wired to the on-off switch and the elevation unit. If you need them, I'll get to that in just a second as well. Now, when we're, ooh, that's nice. So when you have an Airsoft problem, you have 2 options. Either you can just replace the plastic Airsoft unit itself and leave the motor in, which is right here, or you can do a full swap. And if you do a full swap, you will need to do some soldering to solder the correct wires back in place on the new motor. Normally, it's not really needed to do a full replacement. You can really tell easy if you go to give it, if you actually apply your left stick to fire this thing, and you can hear this motor spinning or making a noise, you do not need to replace it, okay? That just means that you've got something wrong with this Airsoft unit. So, let's open this guy up real quick. And I'm sorry if it's dirty. Once again, guys, this has been used for a long time now. It's been sitting in my garage for a little bit too, so I'm sure it's a little extra dirty. Alright, and that should do it right there. Okay. Alright, we'll pop this off and we'll keep the screws in there. No need to flip that over. Alright, and that's it. So the Tiger is actually pretty easy. Now, please notice there is a spring right here. And the spring does go back on this little cross. And it will go right here in this little square. So, while you have this apart, just go ahead and drop a super glue there. It's not going to hurt anything. Now, what we're going to do is, we don't really have much room to work with this. So, guys, be aware of that. Now, this motor does work. So we're going to keep that. And we're going to keep all the wiring and everything. The only thing that we're going to do is just do a quick swap, which is what 95% of you guys will be doing if you're watching this video. So the first thing you want to do is take off this little motor protector right here. And pretty much what this does is this has this little tab right here, and this will stop the motor from coming out of place, and it also holds onto the wires right here. So get a pair of snips, come over here, carefully snip the wire, or not the wire, I'm sorry, the zip tie. All right, now we have these wires, and then we have this 2-wire plug right here. So this guy we can pretty much leave alone because the new Airsoft unit will have one already installed right there. There's the wire. So what we're going to do is push this motor out by taking our screwdriver on the other side. And do you see that pinion right there? Okay, that's where we're going to press. So we're just going to take our screwdriver, and that's it. So the motor is out, and that is our big replacement right there. So since we've already got the motor out, we're just going to hit up 2 screws, one right here and one up right here, and that will release the firing unit from the tank. So let's go ahead and unscrew these 2. And make sure, guys, that when you're unscrewing and screwing these back in, you don't screw them too tightly. Alright. So now that we've removed those 2 screws, we can go ahead and just remove the whole unit out. Alright. So now we have the unit with the 2-wire plug right here. What you can go ahead and do, guys, is remove that screw. Okay, because you might need this contact switch at some point in the future. The rest of the unit you can throw away. Now, we have the replacement unit right here. And since our motor still works, and you can test that by looking at one of my other videos where I show you guys how to test your brush motors, we're just going to apply a bit of DC power to it just to prove that it does work here. Okay, you see that? So we've got a little bit of power there. So we are good to go. Now, since we're good to go, we know the motor works, what we're going to do is we're going to take this screw off right here. And we'll just move it to the side. Okay, make sure that screw doesn't fall out. Now we're going to push this motor out of this unit here. Okay, so now this motor we can set aside. Now, make sure you keep that motor up there because that can be used for a spare motor for something else inside of this tank. That's a commonly used motor. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to slide the previous motor into this one. Now, make sure that you always have your wires facing towards the inside of the unit right here. Okay? So we're just going to put it in, slide it in, and it'll snap in place. If it doesn't snap in place immediately, come back to this side right here. Just use your screwdriver and move the pinion around. Just so it's not lining up with one of the gears on the inside right here. It should snap right in place. Okay, now we are going to... Now remember, guys, your unit's going to sit in like this, upside down. So we want to kind of hide our wires like this. Okay, and we just want them to kind of look halfway decent here. Just a little cover is all we got. And okay, so now we've got our unit in place. We're going to make sure our spring sits in the correct place on the X like it should. And then we're going to put the square right here, right on that spring. Okay, and then make sure that the back of your Airsoft unit goes underneath your elevation gear. And that's it. What we're going to do is we're just going to test fit this right now by setting it on its inserts and making sure everything fits correctly. Okay, so we have a good unit here. Now what you see is that spring sliding off because I didn't super glue it like I told you guys to. So just slide the unit back in here. We're going to go ahead and put these 2 screws back on. A little pain for the guys that don't use the magnetic screwdrivers. Okay, and let's do the other side here. Alright, so now we've got both screws in there, and we are ready to put the airsoft unit back in place now. Now remember to reroute your wires out of the way of this unit. So we're going to set the spring back in place, and that's right there. We're going to move all our wires out of place so that when we can set this down in the crevice here, we don't actually pinch any wires. Go ahead and do a quick test here. Everything feels nice and smooth. Now, this is why I told you guys at the beginning of the video not to take those screws out, because it's going to make it a lot easier. And just keep pressing down and slide that back in place, and that's it. Now we can just screw this back in. And that's it, guys. That is how you replace the airsoft unit on Taigen tanks. Depending on the model tank, you might have to do the improvise just a little bit. Some of our tank destroyers do not have turrets, obviously, so you might have to work around that. They'll be mounted, and it'll operate the same exact way. So now we have our elevation is nice and smooth. We know the motor works. We tested that before it went in. So this guy is good to go, and that is how you do an airsoft swap on the Taigen tank.